Hello, everybody. This is Elena, aka the Vibrant Cat Eye. Welcome to the Vibrant Cat Eye Metaphysical Movies podcast. I have my co-host here, my guest Jamie. Can you tell us a little bit
Hi.
about yourself?
Yeah. So, I guess some interesting things to know about me is I know we're all like book nerds, right? So I'm sure you're all checking out my books behind me. I am a rabbi by training. I am also a medium. I am also a hospice, now newly minted, board certified hospice chaplain. Um So those are some of the things. I also have a love for the Twilight Zone, and I am currently writing a book about my experience as a hospice chaplain and death and
Oh,
dying, as well as the Twilight Zone, and using that as a lens to just explore some of what I've witnessed.
wow, that's amazing. And your Substack on here is called the Good.
It's a good life
It's a good live
review.
review. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which also kind of goes into, like also bridges the death chaplain aspect of what you do and everything, which is really really interesting. And also like the Twilight Zone ties into that really heavily as well. So I think that's a brilliant name for your Substack and
Thank
everything.
you.
So
Thank you.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
do too.
Yeah. So today, you guys, we're going to be discussing the Twilight Zone episodes, the After Hours from season one, and the Living Doll from, I believe it's season four. Is that right, Jamie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the good ones from season 4. Season
Oh
4
yeah.
is hit or miss.
hmm Yeah, and it's interesting because both of them, what both of them have in common is they both deal with the that uncanny valley, like dolls, both dolls and mannequins. So After Hours has the mannequins, and the living doll of course it brings the dolls, and it brings the the psychological terror that comes with being in the same room as a doll and everything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. I
yeah.
think yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, did you want to do like a recap of one of them, or
Yeah, so let's start with the famous talking Tina.
Mhm.
So, right. So, little girl, I
Mhm.
always blank on people's names. Christy gets a
Christy?
doll
Yeah.
from her mother
hmm
and, um, and loves this doll. It's modeled after the famous Chatty Cathy doll, which was all the
hmm
rage in the, I believe in the 50s.
hmm
And, my mom remembers them, and, like, if you have anyone who was born around that time,
hmm
like, I talked a lot, so I was called a Chatty Cathy.
hmm
Uh, which I'm sure is not a surprise to anybody.
hmm
So, she gets this doll. We've probably all seen the parodies of this, right?
Yeah.
It
Right.
always says, like, "I'm talking Tina and I love you."
Uh-huh.
But when the evil stepfather would pick it up, he
Mhm.
would always say mean things like, "I hate you," and then it goes into eventually, "I'm talking Tina and I'm going to kill you."
Yeah.
And so the rest of it is that, and sorry, there's spoilers if you haven't seen this,
Mhm.
maybe listen to it after you've seen it.
Yep.
So what happens is that the father, who's played by Telly Savalas,
Mhm.
tries to get rid of this doll. He's not for this.
Yeah.
And he's just awful. He's like, I would say he's both verbally abusive to Christy, the little girl,
Mhm.
and doll, if not
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
physically abusive to the doll.
Right, yeah. Oh, he's
So
outright physically abusive to the doll, but also it makes me wonder, just based on his attitude and his aggression, if he's, like, also physically there's some hints about him being physically abusive towards his wife and his stepdaughter as well.
yeah, yeah, I think so. He's like overall not a great guy.
Oh,
I,
no,
I
definitely
would go on a
not.
limb and say that.
Yeah.
And in fact, his wife, because of his kind of erratic behavior,
Mhm.
I guess she's seeing all the red flags that she
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
see previously,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So she's like packing up to leave. He's like trying to chop this doll's head off with like
Mhm.
a wood like a wood saw type thing, and
Yeah.
He tries all kinds of things to get rid of this doll, and
Mhm.
it doesn't go away. Um, and, the doll he ends up tripping on the doll down the stairs, and
Mhm.
the doll gets the last laugh.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the last line is, "I'm talking Tina, and you better be nice to me."
Right, yeah, and that's how you know it wasn't just, all in Eric's head, like, there was something definitely I guess leading into what you just said there with, "I'm talking Tina and you better be nice to me," we get that confirmation that there absolutely was something supernatural, or at least there was a huge hint that there was something supernatural going on with the doll because why would the doll just come out and say that to the mother, right? But also, the fact that, you know, um, it was almost like the doll was not just trying to warn her, but there was also this, like she wanted it's almost like it felt like she was a protector of that girl, but
Yeah.
also yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
and it makes me wonder if Annabelle herself, the mother, if she was, it seemed like she herself was a protector of her daughter, so she was I don't know if she was an enabler of, like, her husband's abuse or anything like that, but there may have been something that the doll was picking up off of her, if,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and and then yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder, like, what happened to that doll afterwards, and, like, did it get put in an attic, after, Christy was done playing with it, and, like, but I don't know if there was a sequel to Talking Tina. Do you know if there was any in the
No, I mean, I will say, I think in my own, like,
Mhm,
fantasy, if I could make a part 2, it
mhm,
would be, and the little girl goes to or the little d the talking Tina goes to another family with another
yeah,
little girl and, like,
yeah,
causes chaos there, whatever.
yeah,
Um, but I did wanna say, though, there's one point in this episode where the father, Telly
mhm,
Savalas, turns and he says, like, "I'm not your father."
yeah,
And it's just like, you know what? I think you deserved everything that you got from this doll.
oh,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, I have 0 tolerance for abuse of any kind towards women, so
oh, yeah, same,
sorry.
yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting you say that as well about that because from what I could see, it sounds to me like they kind of like just based on their conversation, what they were hinting at, it sounds like they were trying for children, of their own.
Yeah,
And it
mhm,
and it sounds like I got the vibe that it was because of him they couldn't have children, like, I felt like, maybe, they wouldn't come out and say this back in those days and stuff, but he was probably maybe sterile and, like, couldn't get
mhm,
her pregnant, and I think that there was a certain amount of shame he was carrying with that, and I think he knew that, I mean, obviously, Christy wasn't his, biological daughter, and I think he had just, like, massive insecurities about that, but
yeah,
I also get the feeling that this man has a past that is probably not a very bright past,
yeah,
probably feels, inadequate. He might have been abused himself as a child in some way. But also, excuse me, he also, I don't know, I feel like maybe, like, like, I have a theory that he might have been, involved in criminal activity, and that the doll itself, Talking Tina, may have been one of his victims that started inhabiting that doll. Maybe she was from, a family of witches or a family of, like, people that had, like, some kind of magical background, and this doll was, there was no coincidence that the doll, made its way to him, and,
mhm.
yeah, yeah, and then, maybe in a way it was like his past in some parallel universe, maybe this was his past coming back to, pay him a visit to get
Totally.
the revenge, yeah.
Well, and
That's one of my theories.
we also know that energy likes to cling on to things, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah, that doll.
maybe this was somebody's doll in the past and it's just their energy hanging on to it now. And,
Yeah,
I'd like to think that Tina protected Christy, and didn't turn on her. But
yeah,
maybe somebody else out there will write the part 2 where talking Tina does turn on her.
yeah. Well
Or we could interpret it right, like
mhm.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, no. I was just, I was gonna say that, it reminds me, um there's it's interesting because there was that new, Twilight Zone, I think in the '90s, like, of course,
Mhm.
decades after Rod Serling passed and everything, and it had Forest Whitaker, I think, was
Yep. Yep,
yeah,
one of
he
its
was
many reincarnations, yep.
reincarnations, exactly, and I remember the cornfield episode, which, we can talk about in another episode if you want, but I remember there was a sequel to that where the
Yep.
child, that was the child that made everything disappear into the cornfield, he had a
Mhm.
daughter in the sequel, and she had the same powers as him.
Right.
And made everything disappear, but then by the end of that episode, spoiler, of course, everything came back. She brought everything back out of the cornfield and everything, so but
Well, and I
yeah.
have to say, I'm
Yeah.
so glad you brought that up because
Mhm.
that is the name of my tag. It's a good life, right? So
Nice.
that's the
Yeah.
name of the episode.
Yeah.
And what's really fun about that separate one
Mhm.
is, so that episode, Billy Mooney, so he was the little boy in the original in the 50s, and then
Yeah.
in that one, he is
Mhm.
the adult and his daughter
Yeah.
plays him. Plays the new
Oh, yeah.
Anthony. So,
That's
like,
right.
that's just a fun tidbit,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
Billy Mooney is still around and kicking in his rock band, and he's a
Oh,
fun
that's
one.
great. He was he the same actor that played was he in The Mask? Was that the I know
Don't
he's been
think
in other
so. He
films.
was he was in other 50s, like, cult, like, The
Okay.
Outer Limits, and I'm sure
Yeah.
I think he was in the revamped Star Trek
Mhm.
and, like, the
Mhm.
2000s, so, I
Mhm.
mean, he's, like, if you name it like, if it's sci-fi, he's been in it. He's
Yeah.
just one of those names, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look him up later and because I have seen him. I have seen that man before in different movies and TV shows and stuff. It's
Yeah,
been many years since.
IMDb, he's in everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I think if they were to do like a Talking Tina like episode, like maybe Christy, because I mean Christy would that show came out in the that specific episode came out probably what, early '60s, late '50s?
Yeah, early 60s, I wanna say 62 or 63, but don't count,
Okay.
like, don't quote me.
Yeah. So and she was a little girl then, so I would think she was probably, let's just say that she was born in 1954 or 55, she would be a grandmother now, and I can see her, taking out the doll out of, the attic or something and then giving it to her granddaughter, and then say, like, her daughter had a husband that didn't like,
Yeah,
that she didn't like or something like that, so she gives the doll to her granddaughter and then goes out, same
yeah.
cycle starts over again? Yeah, which, like I said, it's interesting because I think that doll actually, let me look up really quick because I know that the woman that voiced, Talking Tina also has voiced
Yes.
all sorts of, is I
She
had
also was the voice of Rocky from Rocky and Bullwinkle,
I heard about that, and
which now
Natasha
that I
too,
know
right?
that fact, I can't unhear.
Yeah. It's interesting, yeah, let's see. Let me see what, because there's also you remember the movie, or did you ever see the show, Trilogy of Terror, the movie Trilogy of Terror?
No, I don't think I did, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Tell me about it, though. How does it
Yeah,
connect?
so, actually, before that, I was gonna say June Foray was, the voice of, the Rocky the Flying Squirrel, Cindy
Yes.
Lou Who as well
Yes. Yep, yep, yep,
on The
yep.
Grinch, and she was also, of course, she was a real life, Chatty Cathy doll voice actor
Yes, that's
to voice
right,
those
that's
dolls.
right.
So that's really interesting. Yeah, fascinating because oh yeah, so going back to Trilogy of Terror. So that came out in the show that came out in around 1975. Um the Trilogy of Terror was, like a horror anthology. One of the shows, and it's been many years since I've seen this one as well, but I know that the last story in that movie, so the I think all 3 episodes were written by Richard Matheson, which, you and I have talked about before in the
Yeah,
past. He
big
he was
fan.
like, yeah, yeah, he was like the Stephen King of his day. So
Yep.
he was, author that was, he wrote, I Am Legend. He's
Mhm.
written, later in his career, he wrote, What Dreams May Come.
Yep.
He started out as a horror writer in the 40s and 50s and
He was
stuff, and
also
then
a Twilight Zone writer.
Oh, wow, I didn't know
So
that.
yeah, so a lot of probably your favorite episodes were actually short stories of his
Oh,
that
wow.
he either himself or Rod Serling adapted for the Twilight Zone.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. And it's interesting because I have a lot of respect and a lot of admiration for Richard Matheson. He,
Mhm.
like I said, he started off as a horror writer, and then he went in he evolved into more spiritually metaphysically centered movies and I mean, books and movies that he had
Yeah,
written and everything. I think by the mid-70s, he like, that was around the time when he stopped writing horror, and it was probably the last time he had, I think Trilogy of Terror was one of the last, movies that he'd actually written because he was writing for TV
okay.
and, and books and everything, and so what was interesting, but just to, I guess, recap with the story of, the last story of Trilogy of Terror. So Karen Black is this anthropology professor, and she receives this doll called a Zuni fetish doll. And it's this like tribal looking doll. It's got these sharp teeth. It looks, it's ugly as hell, right?
Yep.
it's it's wearing a necklace that if you take off the necklace, the doll comes to life. And
Mm.
yeah, it gets really freaky because she's in this small apartment and, she's got this doll, she's looking it over, she's talking to, I think she's talking to her boyfriend at one point on the phone, and then and like that same I think the same scene, she calls her mother and, her mother, from what's being hinted at, is a very narcissistic and selfish, self-centered person who's manipulating her daughter, making her feel really, really bad. Like that's, if that's one of the things I remember from that show, from that from that
Yeah, yeah.
short story. And so, she walks away from the doll for a little bit. The necklace that's around its waist drops off and just falls off of the table that she set it on. And, then the doll's missing after she walks in a few minutes. She's like, "Oh, that's strange. It must have fallen off the table." And then all of a sudden all of a sudden it my cat's crying. Anyways,
Oh,
yeah, he's like, "Meow." Yeah. See? This is, this is Teddy right here.
hi, Teddy.
Yeah, it's my Maine Coon, he's so cute.
He's so
Yeah, he's adorable. Anyways, yeah, so she's looking for the doll, and then all of a sudden, the doll just comes, like, out going with this, like, this is a letter opener, by the way, she's like, like, it
Thanks for
just makes,
clarifying, I appreciate that.
yeah, like, makes this sound. It was it was the weirdest sound because it wasn't the doll didn't talk, it just made this, like, sound and stuff and just running around the apartment with just this little knife, just kinda just going everywhere, like,
Mhm.
and yeah, and it's just, anyways, it's chasing her around the apartment, and it's trying to, it's obviously trying to kill her and wish her harm,
Right.
and we don't have any idea what this doll is and why it's doing what it's doing. It's just randomly running through the house and, like, trying to get at her, and then at some point, she finds a, what do you call, like, one of those, like a suitcase, and, like, opens the suitcase and, like, it runs in there, she, like, closes it, and then, and then it's like it's done really weird because she puts it in there and it but it still has a knife, so it's, like, cutting its way, it's like, slicing its way out of the, cutting a square in there, and she's, like,
Yeah.
she's trying to do this, like,
You
she
know
has
what that
great.
reminds me of? Another parody, sorry to bring in more pop
Go for it.
culture and another parody of
Yeah.
this Twilight Zone episode,
Okay.
although that isn't a parody, but this one is. So, I actually just rewatched this last night, the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror
Oh, yeah, the
episode
crusty
where
doll?
they yeah, with, the Krusty doll, right? And
Mhm.
so, like, he also tries to put Krusty in a bag yeah, Homer tries to put Krusty in a bag and, like, get
Yeah.
rid of the Krusty doll, but I think what I appreciate in the ending of this one I
Yeah.
mean, it's also The Simpsons, so it's just, like, early Simpsons writers are, like, just
Yeah.
brilliant. But,
Oh,
um,
absolutely.
that they that there's the on-off switch, right?
Yeah.
So there's the, like, evil, good switch, and, like,
Right?
Marge has to
I remember.
call to, like,
Uh-huh.
have them just flip the switch, and so, so you watch Krusty go from, like, murder mode to,
Yeah.
like, friendly, lovable doll mode, and,
Right?
like, I both love and hate that ending.
Yeah.
Like, I like that it's a happy ending, but I also hate that it's a happy ending. Like, and I kind of wanna know, what what I don't know. Richard Matheson didn't write this one, but I'd be
Right.
curious or, like, what Rod Serling would have thought of that ending, and I don't know.
Oh,
I
yeah.
they probably hated it, but I think it's hilarious, so
Oh, yeah. It would've been interesting to hear what Rod Serling thought about just the way the culture's gone and everything and how, because I feel like, we've, over the last 60 years moved towards more materialism and, more surface level stuff. I feel like, I get the impression that he, like, was going into, like, the psychological meat of, like, the series of the series he helped he created and everything and was, and because I was listening to the podcast that you were on, the Ozarks podcast, and
Mhm.
that was brilliant, by the way. You
Hi,
guys did a
Matt.
yeah. Hi, Matt. Nice to meet you. My name is Elena. Yeah, it was interesting because what happened? What was I say? Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. Um, what were we
Rod
talking about?
Serling,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you
Ozark Mads podcast, what Serling would have thought about today's chaos.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting because like, I remember you were sharing the story, and by the way, you guys, if, I'll link, that podcast as well on my page. You should listen to it. Jamie gives an explanation about Rod Serling's life and, where he started and, how Twilight Zone started and everything. So it's amazing. But yeah, it's interesting the way you mentioned him and how his I guess his time, I guess, as he was a World War II veteran, right? You said?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, he was a
Yeah.
paratrooper. Yep, in World
Yeah.
War II.
Yeah, and how that's informed the Twilight Zone and how,
Uh-huh.
how he it made him see the world completely different. I mean,
Yeah.
that's yeah, it would be interesting if because 'cause he'd be in his 90s, right? He'd be like 96, 97 or something?
So he actually
Or 100?
2 years ago, it was his centennial birthday.
Oh,
So he'd be
wow.
102.
Oh, dang. And his daughters are still alive, right?
Yes, Anne and Jody, yep, they're
And Jody
still
yeah,
here, and, they're fantastic.
that's amazing. I'm
Yeah.
and I'm yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they're, protecting his legacy and, like, promoting his legacy and everything, which,
Certainly
is
trying.
that's
There
awesome.
is, for anybody who's interested, come join us. There is something called Sterling Fest every year in Binghamton, New York,
Oh, wow.
where
I didn't know
yeah,
that
where
existed.
he's from, and, it's very nice to be able to
Mhm.
see, where you can still the house is still there, you can see his high school, you can see his house, you can see, um,
Uh-huh.
if you're familiar with the series, the pilot episode, The Walking Distance, the bandstand is still there, so you can see a whole lot of it.
Wow.
Um it's great. It's a very small conference. So
Mhm.
if you have a favorite writer who's
Mhm.
written about the Twilight Zone, I mean, I will be there if I'm your
Yeah, of
favorite,
course.
mind me,
Yes.
but I will be presenting. Uh but yes, so it's great. It's a small conference. It's really just people are wonderful. And Anne Serling is usually there every year. So
Amazing.
it really is a delight.
Have you met Anne? Have you met his family?
I have met Anne,
That's
yes.
awesome.
Um,
Yeah.
Anne is super lovely, she's very sweet, she's very approachable,
Uh-huh.
and, yeah, I can't say enough good things about Anne.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's great. I would love to attend one day. That would be great
We
to
get
yeah.
people like I'm not even on the board, but I talk like I
You
am.
should be.
Maybe one day. But yeah, so there's people who come from all over. Last year, I was with my husband and we met 2 men from Australia.
Mhm.
They
Oh,
met up in
amazing.
Texas. They used to live in Texas. They met up in
Uh-huh.
Texas, and
Uh-huh.
then they went to Binghamton because he was
That's
such
great.
a Twilight Zone fan. There was a guy from France. I mean, there's people from all over the country, so it's
Mhm.
really fun, super nerdy, non-competitive, unless you're competitive about Twilight Zone trivia,
Mhm.
then yes, it's competitive. But
Mhm.
like, even with my knowledge, I'm like a two. Like, I don't go up against the people on the board foundation because like
Right.
I'm like not. I'm not that good, but I try.
Oh, and they I mean, you're brilliant though. I mean, that's the
Oh,
thing,
well,
like,
thank
you
you.
yeah, yeah, I mean, you have a passion for the Twilight Zone, you promote, like, what the Twilight Zone how it's influenced culture and everything, and I think that that's really amazing that you're doing that you're keeping
Thank
that,
you.
like you're doing your part in keeping that legacy alive, and that's important, and,
Well,
I
thank
need
you.
yeah, of course, yeah,
I had a
yeah,
conversation with Anne, I think maybe the first time I met her in
mhm,
person, and I told her, for me growing up as a little Jewish girl in upstate New York,
uh-huh,
like, to know that there was another little Jewish boy once upon a time in upstate New York who had a dream of the Twilight Zone, and that this
mhm,
little girl one day would
mhm,
grow up and, like, meet her TV icon was just
mhm.
like, I I couldn't have imagined that, and
Wow.
it just felt so powerful to be like, "Wait, like, this could this could be me."
Of course, yeah, yeah, that's amazing, and then, your work as you called it a death chaplain, right?
Well, I
Forgive me.
work as a hospice chaplain.
I'm sorry, hospice
That's
chaplain, and
okay. Yeah.
there yeah, there 'cause there was a name, like, spacing it at the moment, what was it called? A d was it not a death chaplain, what was it that you
Some
do?
people get them confused. There's something called a death doula, and then
Death
there's
doula,
a
yes,
hospice
yeah,
chaplain.
yeah,
Um, so the difference between them is
mhm,
death doulas are typically volunteer,
uh-huh,
and they have much less training
mhm,
and much more flexibility. So
okay,
sorry for any death doulas out there who are joining. You were a vital part of this piece here.
mhm,
And sometimes they are paid, but most often, I think I
mhm,
get a lot of angry comments. They are not.
yeah,
Chaplains, you have to have something called a Master's of Divinity
uh-huh,
from an accredited seminary. I went to rabbinical school, so I have
mhm,
the title of rabbi. It is typically to be a rabbi, it's about 5 years.
yeah,
If you're Christian or non-denominational, I mean, we have Buddhist chaplains. Like their
mhm,
seminaries tend to, not always, end up
mhm,
being less time. And
mhm,
then you have something called clinical pastoral education.
mhm,
And so that is like about 600 hours of
mhm,
clinical work and classroom.
mhm,
And then you have, if you continue to be board certified.
uh-huh,
So this whole journey took me, 6 years of rabbinical school, and then
mhm,
within that, some of that and an extension, another 10 years to become board certified. So there was a
wow,
little overlap. So
but
yeah, so as a hospice chaplain,
mhm,
I see people who are on hospice and then able to get on hospice, you have to have a diagnosis from your doctor
uh-huh,
saying they believe you have 6 months or less to live.
right,
Uh, that's a status that you can one could stay at for
mhm,
multiple years because
uh-huh,
your health isn't increasing and you're
yeah,
not, declining.
mhm,
Or, sometimes we get people on hospice for like 24 hours.
oh,
So
wow, yeah,
never really know. And my job is really just to walk alongside them.
that's
So
amazing,
thank you. So I work as a
yeah,
multi-faith chaplain. I don't come with any kind of an agenda. I'm not here to definitely not here to proselytize.
right,
Um,
you're there
and for those
to be with them, right? To,
exactly,
yeah,
and to
to be a
provide that
presence,
support of
yeah,
exactly. And even for those who say, "Well, I'm not religious. This is just
mhm,
not for me."
yeah,
Cool. Maybe you're into poetry. Maybe you're into nature. Um, you know, or maybe you just don't want to, maybe the patient doesn't want anybody to talk to, but the family does because
yeah,
being a caregiver is a really hard job.
oh, I hear that
So,
too, Yeah,
Yeah.
I've known people, I've had friends that have been in, that caregiving industry, both in United States and Canada, and it's in some ways very rewarding, but it's also very hard, but also, like, the not that people are doing it just, like, for the pay or anything like that, but right now, I think
Nobody's
that
doing this work for the pay.
oh, yeah, no, yeah. No.
Nobody.
Just like with teaching, a lot of people, like, have a love for teaching, but it's yeah, I think a lot of these positions need to be, compensated so much more than they
Oh,
are right
yes.
now. Yeah,
I
yeah.
believe it's Detroit too who don't don't quote me. I believe it's
Sure.
Detroit though that actually started, um, unionizing home health aides.
Oh, good. That's important.
So,
That's
I would love to see
yeah,
that everywhere.
yeah, that's
Because and a
yeah.
good home health aide is, like, worth their weight in gold.
Oh,
Like, I mean,
100%.
and they're so rare. I mean, it's hard to get any kind of home health care aide, and,
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
they're yeah, 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 I'll sing
Yeah,
their praises. That
yeah,
give me
it's
that a
just
good nurse and a good medical social worker, and we're there.
absolutely. It's interesting because my neighbor right next door, is 96 years old, and, she has a huge family, so, her kids have, like, a couple of aides come through every single day, like, with when one leaves, like, after they've been there all night, another comes through,
Yeah.
which is great. I'm very happy that she's being taken care of in that way, so that's great. I hope that, you know, things are going smoothly in that situation and stuff, but yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, back to what we were saying about, uh, I guess to finish what I was saying about, Trilogy of Terror and how
Yes.
yeah, so, yeah, I guess that was kind of like the next movie, like, I guess pop culture type and I don't know if it was the next one, but it was, one movie that I really felt, made an impact, on the culture, I guess, in, like, at least
Sure.
in the horror genre and everything.
Yeah.
And, yeah, these it's interesting it was, Talking Tina, but, like, I think the doll trope kind of evolved, like, starting, in the '80s with Chucky, you and I were
Yeah.
talking earlier about Chucky, and, when I was in high school, all the way through my 20s, I was really, like into the Chucky fandom and everything, and, what's interesting about, Don I mean, and I have to say, Don Mancini, is an amazing, director and writer, and, I think that he grew up, and he was, born in, like, 1965, and he grew up with a lot of, with Talking Tina, with the Trilogy of Terror and stuff.
Right.
He was a child and a teenager, and his father actually worked in advertising, and he,
Uh-huh.
says in a lot of his interviews, that when he's talking about, his childhood, that his father I think it was his father or somebody around him called, children consumer trainees. So you've got that consumer
Yeah.
aspect that's also tied into, the dolls and everything, and my cat is up here. Anyways, yeah, so it's interesting how that aspect, kind of feeds into, the mythology of how, it's not just, the dolls, in pop culture, but it's like how, dolls have made an impact, in the lives of children, for centuries and how, like, it's kind of become commercialized, in our modern day, at least within the last, 70 years or so. And, I really like that Don brought that up, in several of his, interviews when he talks about Chucky and everything. And, and also, he's very much a film buff, a film aficionado. That's one of the things I liked about him as a writer and how he also, writes about film and everything. But anyways, he was a huge, Chucky, like, was very much inspired from what I understand from Talking Tina, from the Azuni fetish doll, and, but one of the difference though is that this doll actually had, like, a character arc. So he Chucky, in all of the films and also the TV series that came out back in, 2021 was voiced by Brad Dourif or is voiced by Brad Dourif, and it has been for the last almost 40 years and everything. It came out in 1988, so that it's interesting because talking Tina with a chatty Cathy, and then, of course, in the 80s, you had, the what was it? The My Buddy dolls, you know, those kinda were
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Do you remember those? Yeah. Those
Uh-huh.
those, inspired Chucky, but it was almost like, the next the next generation of the Chatty Cathy dolls, and, you know,
Uh-huh.
the Chucky doll, you know, in the first, all pretty much all throughout the series, the good guy doll, which was, the Chucky, the I guess the what is it called? The mass of, dolls that was produced, through the
Right.
company in the movie and stuff, it was called The
Yeah.
Good Guy. Anyway, they had that same kind of, chatty Cathy voice. I think it was I forgot the person, the individual that voiced the actual, like, recorded I'm spacing the name, it's been many years since I looked
Yeah,
at
no, that's okay.
but yeah, it was kind of a similar situation to, June Foray,
Mhm.
voicing the voice of, Talking Tina, but anyways, like, there's been an evolution, and then, of course, Goosebumps, which was R.L. Stein's, the books that he wrote, plus the TV series that came out between, like,
Mhm.
1996 and '99 and everything. There was, Slappy the Dummy, which also
Oh,
was
loved it.
more of
Yeah,
a
I
kid
mean,
friendly. Yeah.
I just think, like, the Twilight Zone
Mhm.
you can't say that the Twilight Zone didn't influence not just
Yeah.
horror, but pop culture in general. I mean,
100%.
I'm even like, you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible, like, my husband didn't grow up,
Mhm.
watching The Twilight Zone. This
Mhm.
is we're still we're making our way through the entire series.
Yes, yeah.
He does love it.
Mhm.
Maybe not as much as me, but that's fine.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, now I understand that Simpsons reference," or,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
last year at Sterling Fest, we had the X-Files writer Frank Spotsnitz,
Uh-huh.
and, he was there. It was really cool, and he spoke about an episode that essentially makes fun of both the X-Files
Mhm.
and, the Twilight Zone. It like,
Mhm.
evokes, different Twilight Zone, like, episodes, and it talks about, uh, the Mandela effect and, like,
Mhm.
I don't know, I
Yeah.
watched the X-Files casually, like, I never watched it, like, I don't know that I ever watch every single episode, maybe
Like, in
that'll
depth.
project, but, so it was, like, fun to see, like, I'm not surprised, but it was fun to see how it showed up there as well, so
Right.
blatantly.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And, to I guess to add to that, I was gonna man, I don't know what's going on with me right now.
That's okay.
It's yeah, it's
It
some of the
comes when
stuff
it comes. Interrupt
yeah.
me. That's fine.
Yeah. I was gonna say something about but oh, yeah, yeah, I was gonna say with Richard Matheson, and, just to, I guess, finish up what I was saying about, Trilogy of Terror and everything, and I think that was, like, the last time he had there was a quote that I actually posted on Substack that I'm gonna have to restack and everything because it's very important because he was saying that, like, by the 1970s, mid-70s, he was just really just fed up with horror. He said there was a quote in a book that was written about his life, that was talking that and I'm forgetting the book right now off the top of my head, but,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
okay.
he had said something about, how he had been, fed up with scaring the hell out of people by the mid-70s and
Yeah.
was, studying more about spiritualism and metaphysics and theosophy and it's interesting because like the book What Dreams May Come, that was the book that kind of led into, it was like the first book of like the different, books that he had written subsequently after that, like In Time, which was about, this gentleman, I think, that was dying from, terminal illness, and he had gone
Mhm.
back in time. He had fallen in love with a woman that he had seen, like, I guess, in a painting, and somehow goes back in time. I have to read the book. I haven't read the book yet, but
Yeah.
there was a
Yeah.
movie about it too that had, uh, what was his name that played, Superman? Oh gosh, what the actor that played the original Superman that,
Oh, Christopher Reeves.
Christopher Reeves, yeah, he was in that he was the character in that movie, and that was back in the '80s. And
Yeah.
then there was also this, oh yeah, the other book that he made that was made into a movie was called Stir of Echoes, where this man, like, after being hypnotized, ends up gaining, like, psychic power from a friend of his, that hypnotized him at a party and everything, and he's, able to, find out about the murder, of this woman that's there, that was, I guess, that he's having visions about and everything, and anyway, so, yeah, just the point I'm making is that he went from horror writer to metaphysics, and that's kind of how it's very reflective of my journey as both, an audience member
Yeah.
and a writer and everything, and how, like, I used to be, like, really into horror films, and I am still, like, I love ghost stories. I'm really, like,
Yeah.
I will always, have a special place
Yeah.
in my heart with Poltergeist, and,
Mhm.
there's another one called Personal Shopper, that I recommend people see, about has Kristen Stewart, and she's a psychic, that,
Mhm.
is waiting for a sign from her twin brother who had passed away of a heart attack and everything.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is that's a really good one that came out back in 2016. Anyway, there's and also The Sixth Sense. There's so many different,
Right.
films out there, but, yeah, I it's our tastes evolve over time, or, we pretty much, get to the point where, we need to be,
Totally.
with whatever we're drawn to, so that we can share that wisdom
Yeah.
that we've gained with the world and everything, and that's one of the reasons I started this
Yeah.
podcast as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I think I had a similar journey as well.
Mhm.
I didn't go too so I've always liked,
Yeah,
like, more of a psychological
yeah.
horror as opposed to, like, blood and guts and
Oh,
everything like
yeah.
that, but like, that's part of why I really like the Twilight Zone,
Uh-huh.
and, like, I got into the early seasons of, American Horror Stories,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
liked that, but then came, like, the 2017 election or
Uh-huh.
2016 and, like, my 2016 and, like, my brain just, like I couldn't do it anymore. I was
I
like,
felt
"You
the
know what?
same exact way. Yeah.
I need to protect myself,
Mhm.
my aura, my,
Yeah,
like, mental health," and so, um, yeah, I'm going very light on the horror,
yeah.
and, like,
Same.
that's just, like, what I need to do for myself because like,
Uh-huh.
I can't get into that headspace right now, and, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I gotta there's enough horror on the outside
Yeah,
that, like, I don't need to bring that in. I'm
it's
good.
interesting that you say that too, 'cause, when my grandfather, before he passed in 2009, my dad's dad, he said the same exact thing. He said, "There's enough horror in the world that we don't need to be adding to it, or we don't need to be, consuming that," and he was right, 'cause at the time, I was more into, like, and I've never really been that interested in, the slasher films besides Chucky.
Yeah.
That was an exception, because for me, Chucky was very campy, and that's
Yeah.
there was an absurdity that I found really hilarious about the idea of a doll, of like a like an evil spirit or serial killer inhabiting a doll. I thought it was I never, was never into, like, the violence of it or anything like that.
Yeah.
To me, it was about the supernatural aspect, and just the whole idea of how, like, how that would play out, especially when, this person, this individual inhabiting the doll, like, how would that, actually go with, especially with somebody who's evil, that's trying to manipulate a child and stuff, because, the character Andy Barclay
Yeah.
was like that character in, the first 3 Chucky films and everything, and, but yeah, it's interesting how, how, like, the psychology of it was more
Yeah, I mean, the
what I
thing is,
responded
like,
to.
there also really wasn't much like it,
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
it was really engaging, like,
Mhm.
oh, like it was horror on, like, a minor scale, kind of, again, to loop back to, like,
Mhm.
the Goosebumps or, like,
Yeah.
like, it hinted at horror, but
Yeah.
didn't, like, give you the whole all of it.
Yeah.
Or just like, like the X-Files, like, it's creepy, but it's not like you're gonna, you're never gonna sleep again kind of a
Right.
thing.
And that's the interesting part though. Like I think that there's, I think part of the issue, and this is just my opinion, I think, when it comes to violence in films and violence in, like, the horror genre in general and everything, there absolutely is a lot of gratuitous horror, like, out there that's, not really even part of the story, but it's only, like, played up for shock value, which, just like, you were saying about, I guess season 6 of American Horror Story and how that
Yeah.
was just like a turn off, that same thing, same here, and I felt like, the first maybe couple of seasons, some of that violence might have been justified in there, but I do think a good portion of it was very gratuitous, in
I
that
just felt
series.
like the
Yeah.
writing just went downhill. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it was like I don't know, I think, like, maybe by season 3, it
yeah,
just it lost its appeal to me. Although,
yeah,
like, I love Kathy Bates, and I would have followed her throughout the entire series, but,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I
Editors, I mean, I liked the cast was fantastic, but the writing
yeah, oh,
just
the cast was amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing with, the I really liked the Coven seasons, I would say
Yeah.
season 3 and season 8 when they came back in the Apocalypse one, because I did watch Apocalypse, I did not watch
Yeah, I know, I was
6 or
guilty of that
7.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that there's a whole different other series that can be created with the Coven,
Oh,
those aspects of
definitely.
that. And I like the idea of the Salem witches and the voodoo witches and everything, and
Yeah.
how, they left Salem and they came to, the what was it? New Orleans and everything. And
Yeah.
so that was a lot of fun. And yeah, so I guess going back into what we were talking about with the Twilight Zone, I was, you know, we should talk about the after hours, because that's
Yeah,
one
we
thing.
can definitely
Yeah,
talk about the after hours.
yeah,
Yeah, so do you want me to give the recap?
absolutely, go for it.
All right. So, the after hours takes place in a department store. Looks a lot like
Mhm,
Macy's.
mhm,
Um, and there's these mannequins, and each one of them has a distinct personality, and they each get a break, again, spoiler, from the world of being mannequins, and they get to live out in the real world for a
mhm,
couple of weeks.
yeah,
And so our main character, Marcia, Anne Francis, who's just like, I think she's fantastic in this.
mhm,
So she goes out into the real world and
uh-huh,
she somehow develops an entire backstory. But
mhm,
when she comes back, she forgets that she's a mannequin.
mhm,
And so she goes to the elevator, at this very fancy department store, and she's looking for a gold thimble for her mother. And she can't find this gold thimble, and they take her to the magic ninth floor. But surprise, there is no ninth floor. But she
yeah,
gets to the ninth floor, and it's completely empty. It looks like a storage room.
mhm,
It has one thing she needs, which is the gold thimble.
mhm,
She goes back into the elevator, she goes back down, she realizes, "Oh no, it's, what's it called? It's dinged. It's no
mhm,
good."
yep,
So that's what happens there. She
mhm,
tries to find a manager.
mhm,
Manager's like, "We don't have that floor. I don't know where you got this. You didn't get it here." She
right,
asks for her receipt. She doesn't have a receipt because she paid cash. And, he's like, "This is a no-go."
mhm,
Um, and she's just so upset, so they say, "Okay, why don't you lay down on this couch over here, put
mhm,
your feet up, take a rest." Then they accidentally forget about her, which seems like a liability, but they
mhm,
also didn't have motion sensors and cameras back then. So she
yeah,
takes a nap and the store closes, and she's locked inside. And
mhm,
so now that she's locked inside, the mannequins start coming alive and start trying to remind her of who she is.
Mhm.
And at the end, she finally realizes, "Oh, wait, I'm a mannequin.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't have a mother. I don't really have any of this backstory, and
Mhm.
sorry to take up your time," and lets the next mannequin go off and live her, I don't know, week of freedom or however long it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was very interesting the way that they did this, 'cause well, you mentioned the department store manager, like sorry, my cat is hold on. Anyways, so the department store manager, I have a feeling that, like, in this specific story, like, he's probably have seen I feel like he's seen a lot of spooky shit around, the department store, because like, in the end there, when he looks back and he sees, Marsha's, Marsha's the mannequin that is Marsha, he was like, "Wait a second," like but I feel like, there's a lot that he's probably dealt with in that specific department store, and as far as when it comes to these mannequins, I mean, whoever I have to say that the not the department, the production designer who created those mannequins did an amazing job at making them all look very realistic. Like,
Well, you wanna know a fun fact about those mannequins?
go for it. Yeah.
So, actually, so when they were deciding whether what to
Mhm.
do, right? Like, if they had
Mhm.
real people stand still, lookalikes,
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
they breathe, they wouldn't look like mannequins.
Yeah.
And then they didn't want them to be fully mannequins, so what they
Mhm.
did was they did a mold of the main character,
Yeah.
her face and a few of the other mannequins,
Mhm.
and put them on the mannequins,
Mhm.
so they would look, close enough. And I thought that
Wow.
was, like,
Yeah.
pretty genius.
That's great. Yeah, 'cause, some of the mannequins there you could tell were, actually actual mannequins that were a little less, human. I mean, they looked human, obviously, but they were more of, actual mannequin looking and
Right.
everything, but yeah, but Marsha and what was the other one that the woman that sold her the thimble?
Oh, yeah, I'm blinking. Yeah, the woman with the
Yeah.
hat. We could just call her the woman with the hat
Yeah, the woman with the hat. Anyways, the woman with the hat had,
and the
was like
trench
almost
coat.
yeah,
Very
yeah,
pretty.
she was what's interesting is that she kind of more so had, like, a mother energy towards Marsha, or, like, at least
Yeah,
an
but she was
aunt.
also, like, pissed.
Yeah,
Like, she was
yeah,
like, "Excuse me, like, it's my turn. You're not
turn.
remembering, like, let's hurry it up a bit."
Yeah. I don't know if Marsha did that on purpose, though, that's another thing is that
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
so.
I don't
I
think she
think
did
she
that.
genuinely got lost in her own delusion.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think honestly, I feel that Marsha herself as the main character, like, really desired to be one of the outsiders and stuff, and was kind of clinging on to that, which is why I think she forgot who she was and everything. And makes me wonder what would have happened had she stayed out of into the real world. Like, and what are makes me wonder, like, the supernatural aspect that's going on there. Like, do these mannequins, I we know that, they exist in the Twilight Zone, but also, like, are they part of a different, like, plane of existence where the inanimate objects that are created, are they are conscious and everything, and maybe they found a way to, like a portal into the world to go there, because in that one, because it's like that one, the difference between Talking Tina in, or The Living Doll, and, the After Hours, is that I feel like there's more of a playful, like, curiosity energy, as opposed to, like, straight up, like, obviously they're not these mannequins are not violent mannequins. They're not,
Yet.
yeah. Yeah. They're spooky as hell, but they're not like, they're not
Yeah,
violent, and they're
yeah,
not trying to go after Marcia or any of the people in the shop. I mean, there could have been just, like, a random person that could have just gotten locked in there too, that wasn't Marcia.
yeah.
And yeah, and it could have gone in a different direction. So that's yeah, but it's also it's interesting because the whole idea of, like, Marcia, like, having the backstory that she had about her mother, and just, moving moving through the world for the month that she was out there and everything, it's she I just you could tell that she just really wanted to be, part of that human world, and, maybe her story's not over.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I also think a really interesting take,
Yeah.
I have on this is like mental health, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so this could totally be a parallel to somebody who's having a breakdown.
Yeah.
And what does that breakdown look like? And maybe, Marsha was real and those were mannequins, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that that's kind of fun, right? Like that's like the speculative fiction,
Right.
sci-fi, whatever coming back into this with the horror is
Yeah.
that you could project this onto, any scenario where you've been afraid
Uh-huh.
um and find meaning in it. And that's
Yeah.
why I know keep coming back to these episodes because as I age more and as I
Mhm.
learn more, they hold different meaning for me.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It's, obviously our perspectives and our, consciousness changes over time, as we start to, get more feedback in life. And, when I say feedback, I mean we start to experience more and become more aware of like how not just how we perceive the world, but how like, the actions that others take, and those patterns that we recognize, within others, but also, how does that like inform, how we take in the world, just based on
Mhm.
like, for example, we what we thought, when we think that, there's people that think that most people are good in the world, which I subscribe to that, but also there's people out there that are also very manipulative, and if you haven't experienced somebody who is manipulative or who has like a narcissistic personality or something like that,
Yeah.
you've never experienced that, and then you go through that experience, it really does change. And, sometimes it depends on, the person, like, it might cause you to become more discerning, not necessarily, like, shut down, but it's important. I think it's really important to have, discernment, and
Mhm.
that's yeah, and so, going through these episodes and, like, looking at them, from a different perspective in each era of our lives, I think we uncover more in everything, so
Totally.
yeah,
Totally. Yeah, I
yeah.
agree 100%. Or there's episodes now I look at in the past, I'm like, "Oh god, I hated this episode." And now I'm like, "Ooh, I actually kind of like this." Like, this
Yeah.
is actually I just, like, was too young and didn't get it then, but
Yeah,
now
yeah.
I do. Or
Right.
there's episodes that I used to love, and I'm like, "Well, it's okay. It doesn't hold the same feeling for me as it once did." Like,
Mhm.
I've matured this episode.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. It's interesting too because I feel that way about the show The Golden Girls, like
Mhm.
my grandparents
Yeah.
back, yeah, like, so that I think that show ran from, like, what, 1985 to 1992 or something like that,
Yeah.
and, yeah, for those of you that are listening that might not know exactly what that show is about, it's these 4 women that are roommates together, they're in their between the age of 50 and 80, and, it was a classic that a lot of, our grandparents' generation, the silent generation, would, like, probably watch and relate to. I know my grandparents, always had that playing in the background when I would come over
Yeah.
to their house, and, the sense of humor and everything, because it's a show, because they also watched Matlock and a couple of other different, also medical shows. My grandmother, I think had dreams of becoming a doctor at some point, but, she never became a doctor, but she loved medical dramas and everything like ER and,
A lot of
you know
ER.
yeah, like Criterion Collection and everything. I still have to watch the show The Pit. That kind of like
I
is very
know. I
ER-esque.
People keep
Yeah.
asking me, like, "Why isn't there a
Yeah.
chaplain in this one?" I'm like, I
Right.
don't know. I try to keep, like, work at work, but
Yeah.
maybe that'll be the next one.
For sure, yeah, and it's interesting with the Golden Girls, like, looking back on that, 'cause it's replaying on the Hallmark Channel, and
Yeah.
one of the fun things about that is that I get the humor now, like, I watch that, I'm thinking, "Ooh, I like the humor, these ladies are sassy and everything," and it's
Yeah, I
because
wanna go join them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It makes me wonder if at some point, maybe our generation, once we hit our 50s, 60s, like, is there gonna be like a Golden Girls, esque type show or a revival of the Golden Girls? Because that would be very interesting to, because a lot of us have the love for that show and
Oh,
everything, so
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's like
But
a comfort, it's like a warm blanket, and, like, they all looked so old, but now
I
when I
know.
find out
Yeah.
how old they were supposed to be, I
Right.
feel like maybe it wouldn't work because now 50 looks, like, young and
Oh, it
vibrant,
does. Yeah.
whereas 50 back then was like, you were like the crypt keeper from a young
Right.
child's point of view.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
sorry,
It's
for all of you
always
folks who are 50 now, you do not look like the crypt keeper. I was about 4. So and they looked old, old, old,
Yeah.
old. Like,
It's
old
interesting.
church
Yeah.
lady old.
Right. Yeah, it's like, remember Dana Carvey, the church lady? Like, remember he's like,
Yeah.
isn't that special?" or something. I think that
Yeah,
was
yep, yep. I mean,
that was
I feel like even now, so full disclosure, I'm 38 and
me too.
I yes, and,
Yeah, we're the
like,
same
I
age.
look at TV, what was I watching the other day? And, like, the parents, I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm the parents' age."
Right. I know,
Wait, I'm
right?
still supposed to be a teen, like, what? No!
Yeah, yeah, I
It's very
know.
confusing.
I feel the same exact way. It's weird, like, how for me, like, once I hit 20, it went by really fast, like, the years started to go by fast, and it is interesting, like, knowing what our tastes and interests were back then and, what they are now, how they've, not just evolved, but, you know, what's, yeah, like, just the perspective, it's really interesting,
Yeah,
the
totally.
perspective we gain there.
Yeah.
Forgot where I was going with that, but yeah, I was gonna ask, like, what are some similarities that you see between the living doll and, the After Hours that you notice that you connect to?
I think I think the shock
Sorry.
value for me is the fact that, they're both
Mhm.
inanimate objects that I'm not expecting to be alive and that
Yeah.
I wouldn't have necessarily personified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very, very interesting, yeah. For me, it's that uncanny valley effect. We were discussing earlier about how, it's both mannequins and dolls are different. Obviously, dolls, have a different purpose. They're supposed to be companions for, inanimate objects that are companions for children and people who need them when they need them. And again, there it could also be like when somebody, maybe you've experienced this possibly in your line of work, like somebody has a doll or like some kind of stuffed animal from it doesn't even have to be from their childhood, but some kind of object that brings them comfort and everything during their time and either hospice or just in general, that helps a person psychologically and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
it's
we have all the time. I guess a good parallel would
yeah,
be, I mean, it's a little creepy, I guess. I don't know, I'm used to it, but,
yeah,
so I would say, I work with mostly dementia patients who are at the end
yeah,
of life,
mm,
and so, as a comfort, many dementia patients will
mhm,
have a baby doll or will
yeah.
have their favorite teddy bear,
Oh, wow.
and it doesn't creep me out per se, although I really don't like old stuffed animals. There's something about, like, a horde of old stuffed animals or, like,
Yeah,
dolls that just gives me the heebie-jeebies, like, I don't like it.
uh-huh,
Um, but I think it's more comical, like, to see, I mean, I guess not comical, but there's something really endearing about seeing somebody at the end of life, like,
yeah,
cuddling a baby, like a baby
right,
doll.
yeah,
Like, and, once many years ago, I had a many, many, many years ago, I had a patient who had, um oh, what's it called? It had, like, the crib, like, had, like, a portable crib that she would take her baby, and, like, from, like, down the hall, she'd take her baby
yeah.
for, like, walks, but, like, in this portable crib type thing.
Oh, wow.
Or
Yeah.
bassinet, I'm sorry, that's the word I was looking for,
Yeah.
bassinet. So she'd, like, have this baby in, like, the co-sleeper bassinet type thing and, like,
Yeah.
would wheel it down the hall,
Yeah.
and, like, not and it's, like, both a little cute and, like, really sweet that,
Yeah.
her place in life right now is caretaker when she needs the most care, you know, possible.
Absolutely.
So, and, like, maybe that may here, for everybody who's a sci-fi fiction writer, maybe that's your next prompt. Write a story about a dementia patient who makes a doll she loves come alive. See
Yeah.
what happens there.
It's a
That's not
good
what I'm
idea.
to write, but there's your prompt.
There we go, do it. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because, like, these dolls are supposed to bring comfort to people and children and just, and like you said, like, towards this ending stage of life, sometimes, they make great companions for, elderly people or people that are terminal, have a terminal illness. And, it seems to me like, with, Talking Tina, is one of those episodes that really, I guess the word would be subverts that or something, and just kind of, shows like a different side to that
Totally.
uncanny valley effect that they could also be psychologically damaging and everything, because like not until the end of that episode do we realize that the doll, I think, really is supernaturally possessed, because it could have all been in the, in the ex-husband's, or in the, in her husband's head, but it was it turned out that there was something there. I mean, something
Yeah.
happened because she picked up on it. She didn't provoke the doll. She just picked it up, and it was like, I'm talking Tina, and you better be nice to me or something like that,
Yeah.
because yeah, because I think she realized that he tripped over the doll, and I think maybe I was thinking that maybe the doll was picking up, like, that maybe, she thought, what I feel like she maybe thought, was there something to this doll actually being alive? And if so, is it responsible for, my husband's death, and
Right.
so, yeah, like, I maybe maybe the doll was picking up that, she was, maybe having those feelings and stuff, and then the doll was like, "Hold on," like, "I'm warning you, don't don't F with
Yeah, don't F with
That
me.
yeah, yeah. I'm not and
Yeah.
yeah, because I will do something to you or something, like, some yeah, I mean, you kind of get that, there's that warning, and I think she was at that point, I'd like to think she was just like, I'm no. I'm not messing with this thing," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm sure that if the doll started to harm Christy, that's when she'd be like, "Okay, that we're no. Nope,
And
I'm
that's
good."
what's great about it, right? Like,
Yeah.
the Rod Serling treated his audience with intelligence, so he
Yeah,
left it unfinished. Yeah.
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's finished to us, but ambiguous because, we're like adults and can figure out our own endings, which
yeah,
really was not done at that time in television, and it left audiences confused. Like, Rod
right.
Serling had to explain the Twilight Zone prior to it going live because
Yeah.
there just was never TV that made people really think they were spoon-fed and nothing was left as ambiguous.
Right, and that's really nice, because I think it actually helped ground society, like, in their thinking and, like, how they process these stories and everything. Because you're right, in the 50s and 60s, there was a lot of spoon feeding, there was a lot of things they couldn't show on TV. It looked like it had to be, like, completely sanitized and clean, and not really, almost like Stepford Wives, like, clean
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
everything, and
Yep.
yeah, it's so that's also another, like, fascinating part about the 50s and 60s in that way, because I think that Twilight Zone really helped, um, you know, allow people to think about what they were watching, and, like, really consider that darker side, and it's not just the darker side, but just really just, look at themselves as, a whole person because, I feel like a lot of it's like the toxic positivity was, like, pushed really hard back in the '50s because,
Mhm.
like, it was post-war, post-World War II, there was, like, a kind of a reset of the vibe of what was happening because, you're coming out of an era where there was a lot of death and destruction and a lot of,
Yeah.
what do you call it? Structures being torn down in very many
Yeah.
ways and then
Yeah.
built back up again. And so
Mhm.
it's like a lot of people, I think a lot of like, I don't know, broadcasters and stuff were pushing that, toxic positivity onto somebody. And I think, Rod just basically was like, well, hold on a second. We are, people that are they're a lot more complicated and a lot more, psychologically complex than, society gives us credit to or the media gives us credit to. I don't know if that was his way of
No,
putting it, but
advertisers did not want complicated. They wanted
yeah,
straightforward, "Sell my product."
right,
So,
exactly.
Rod would have to come up with ways because it was the advertisers that really ran things back
Yeah, it's
then, and
true.
so he
Yeah,
would have to come up with scripts that both satisfied,
yeah.
the networks and the ads. So, I mean, he was
Mhm.
constantly changing thing with
Yeah.
changing elements of stories because God
Mhm.
forbid if he had a potato in an episode, but it was sponsored by a corn harvesting company, then he would have to change it to corn because people might not like corn because there was a potato kind
Right,
of
yeah.
thing. So and then he sometimes got around that by just making up his own companies,
Yeah,
to get around the whole ad thing, and so that's also really interesting as well.
for sure, yeah. Yeah, and it's good that, like, we also, because again, I think that there's in our society, like, what I was saying about the toxic positivity in a way that's, like, not acknowledging that dark side of ourselves or that shadow side, and I really feel like Rod, brought that out, with the Twilight Zone is, allowing people to really, in a safe way, explore that shadow side of ourselves. I think that's the thing about watching horror in
Mhm.
general is that's how a lot of people explore those,
Yeah.
yeah, those feelings, that not necessarily they have those dark feelings themselves, but,
Well,
like
they're
yeah,
not, it's not socially acceptable to say some things out loud or to think certain things, and so
yeah,
writing and horror allows them to do that in a way,
exactly.
like, revenge fantasies or whatever, that they
Yeah,
may not actually hopefully don't ever act out in real life, but they have an
right.
outlet to feel like they have some control over their lives,
Yeah,
like, again, Rod Serling used the Twilight Zone to work through his own PTSD about war, so
right,
he tried to, bring messaging about the importance of, like, the little man and standing up for the little man and standing up for injustice and
right.
civil rights, through his writing,
I
which,
love it.
he had to completely turn upside down, because networks didn't want that.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
had to be everything is great, everything is perfect, and,
right,
he had just come back from war, and everything was not perfect. Uh,
exactly.
he was not
Especially yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, especially, I mean, those the people that fought in that war and that, experience all sorts of horrors, in the in
Well, and he
Germany
really
and
saw
wherever they
the
were.
worst of it being in the
Yeah.
Philippines.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the
I didn't
Pacific.
Oh, yeah, you were right, you did mention that in the last podcast you did, which was,
Yeah.
that he was, in the Pacific, but he wanted to go didn't he wanna go originally over to Europe, I think?
Yeah, he wanted to fight
Yeah,
Nazis,
yeah,
and instead he ended up over in the Pacific,
yeah,
and, yeah, and he saw some incredibly horrifying things,
yeah.
and for the most part, later in life, he was, anti-war unless he felt that it was absolutely
Absolutely
necessary, but he
necessary,
was
yeah.
really anti-Vietnam War.
Oh, yeah.
Um, he was very pro he gave a speech with Martin Luther King Jr., so very
Oh,
pro
wow.
civil rights.
Yeah,
So Rod Serling was, like, a pretty cool dude.
yeah, it
And he
sounded like
went
it.
beyond the Twilight Zone in many ways. He did, voicing for nature documentaries, like, he did one with Jacques Cousteau. So,
Wow.
like really ahead of his time in many different ways.
Different aspects. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, I didn't know he did nature documentaries, you know?
Yeah, later in
Yeah,
life. Yep, yep.
that's
He did the
incredible.
voiceover for several of them, and, he did a voiceover for, um, after JFK was assassinated, when I
Yeah,
believe it was Lyndon B. Johnson took over, he did a documentary kind of, like, reintroducing the country to Lyndon B. Johnson,
yeah,
and yeah, so, like, I mean, he's done so many things that, like, I think people have, like, forgotten or took for granted or whatever, but, um, he's a
yeah.
cool dude.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, he absolutely he surely made a mark on pop culture and everything and, you know, gave an entire generation, at least when it was released, you know, the baby boomers, you know, something to reference and look back on, you know, when they're not just making references themselves, but just really, you know, it really inspired, you know, a lot of the stories that are, you know, that are in pop culture right now. And you know, again, we were talking about Goosebumps earlier, and also Are You
Yeah.
Afraid of the Dark, which was basically the Canadian, like I didn't realize when I was a kid that that was a Canadian production as well, you know?
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
because it was probably cheaper, right, to produce in Canada and, like,
Oh,
actors.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there I think in Vancouver, they used to I think the sound stages there was like either a tax break or some it was
They
just
still
cheaper
do
to
that
film them.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, they still do that, and it's interesting because you know, living in Alaska, being in Alaska most of my life, there was a period of time in 2010 when, there was a couple of movies being filmed here. There was one called The Frozen Ground. There was
Okay.
another called yeah, which was about the serial killer Robert Hansen, which actually interesting enough, I was just gonna really quickly say that, so Robert Hansen was a serial killer that, was active in the 60s and 70s in Anchorage. He unalived a lot of prostitutes and you
Yeah.
know women that wouldn't be missed around the Anchorage area, and he would fly them out to like a remote area.
Ugh.
He would use it. It was creepy. He would shoot them. He
Nope.
murdered over 30 women, and he died in prison. I think in 2014, but they eventually caught him. But I um I remember so my dad's you know, one of my dad's best friend's sisters actually worked for one day in his, bakery that he had. He had a bakery that he owned, and she
Ugh.
was like, "This is really creepy. I'm not gonna work here." So she left, and because she was picking up, I think, on the vibes of
Yeah, I
the
was
guy,
gonna
so
say, good job using
that was
your
good.
intuition.
Yeah,
Yay.
that was amazing, so yeah, but anyways, they filmed, a movie about his life, like or about, you know, h how the story of what had happened, and it had, John Cusack in it, and they had tax
Oh,
breaks
yeah.
for, like, a couple of years of filming here, and then Big Miracles, which was another, movie that filmed here that had, starred, I think, John what was his name? The guy that from The Office, Drew Barrymore and, Kristen Bell were in there
Okay.
too.
Okay,
Yeah,
right. Yep.
yeah, and so, yeah, there for a while, there was tax breaks in Alaska, and, that was nice, but I guess the Senate here, the state Senate didn't want like, the more conservative state Senate didn't want, like, Hollywood types coming here or something, so they yanked that, which was ridiculous 'cause, you know, that brings actually a boost to the economy here, you know, and that's
Yeah,
really
absolutely. I
yeah.
also live in a town that heavily relies I live in New York. I live about 2 hours north of New York City,
Oh,
and
wow,
so
yeah.
we heavily depend on people coming up and tourists, but also,
Yeah.
like, it's booming here in the Hudson Valley in terms of the film industry,
Oh, that's great.
and so it's great for jobs for us. I mean, yes, it's more traffic, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it's important for our local economy, so, you know, at least I'm grateful for that extra revenue.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's interesting 'cause I too have a connection to upstate New York.
Oh,
Yeah, so in 2011, I finished my bachelor's in English in creative writing, with an emphasis in screenwriting at SUNY Oswego. So SUNY
oh,
Oswego
get
is
out,
about
I applied there
oh,
in
nice.
undergrad.
Oh, man, we maybe would have crossed paths at that point because
Maybe.
yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had done 4 years and I'd gotten an associate's degree here. 'Cause I only meant to stay in, at UAA, which was the University of Alaska Anchorage for about 2 years, but I ended up going for 4 years and just, getting my associates because I had enough credits for that. But then I went into, I thought, well, I really want to go out of state. And so I have a friend that went to SUNY Oswego and she told me about their creative
Mhm.
writing program. But once I got there, because I thought that Oswego was gonna be a cute little harbor town, and not to knock Oswego, but I kind of
Has a
found that
nice
it was.
lake.
Yeah, it's great. It's on the edge of Lake Ontario, and actually, fun fact, the Oswego I think it's the Oswego River, is the only river that runs upstream in the United States. Every one of
The
them.
Hudson River goes both ways too.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. The more you
Yeah,
know, right?
that's
Like,
okay.
yeah, like NBC, the more you know, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, it's I love upstate New York. Upstate New York is, very, very much there's a lot of history. Like, there's so much history, and
So much history.
I yeah, and, I love the little towns, Atlas, Alexandria Bay are, like, 2 of my favorites there.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I had a friend, like, an older friend that, was from that area that I have since had a falling out with, that took me around the area and showed me all those things, so I'm forever grateful for that. But also, Syracuse has a very kind of industrial, artsy vibe to it, which I really appreciate, and the winters are not that dissimilar from Alaska. I think Alaska
Interesting.
yeah, Alaska, like, we have our snowy winters, but it's more dry up here because the lake effect in Oswego. I found that it's very, you got the wet, heavy snow over in upstate New York.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and the difference between, like, living in North Dakota and
yeah,
living in New York, I mean, there's many things that are different, but in
yeah,
terms of, like, just winter, I was
yeah,
used to the, like, bone-chilling, wet, humid, whereas, like, in North Dakota, and I don't know if it's like this in Anchorage, it's just dry, but, like, the ice will stay forever. Like,
yeah,
it's a dry cold, it's a
yeah,
really cold, and, like, I wasn't used to not seeing grass.
yeah,
Like, I was
yeah.
like, "What do you mean I'm not gonna see grass?" And, like, ice stays forever. Like, if your parking lot has ice in it in November, it's not
Yeah.
thawing out.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's that same it's you're actually pretty accurate with, North what was it, North Dakota, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
North Dakota and, the climate of Alaska are kinda similar that way too, because it gets super dry up here, which, my hands, like, are very dry and cracked right now too because of the weather, but
Yeah.
also, yeah, the difference though between I think the lower 48 is what we Alaskans call, the continental US and
The
Alaska is
rest
that.
of us.
Right, right, yeah, we've got right, we've got, like, the light changes, so, like, because we're
Yes.
so up north, like, in the wintertime, the sun comes up at, like, 10 o'clock, and then it just sets around, like, 3 or 4:30 PM, and it can
Yeah.
get very, very in the wintertime, because our winters are longer, we go from, like, end of October to, probably mid-April is how
Yep.
long our winters are. Yeah, it gets very depressing, when it's dark
It's
that long,
hard.
right? But the exact opposite happens in the summertime, like, because we just did the spring forward, with the
Yep.
daylight savings time. So that part, like, when we start to gain daylight, the sun in the summertime does not start setting until 11 o'clock at night, and then it comes up at 4 in the morning, so
Yep.
I end up having to wear a mask, to sleep because
Totally.
I need darkness. I mean, it's something I've dealt with my whole life, so I'm so used to it, so when I lived in upstate New York temporarily and also New York City and Seattle, like, it I thought, "Well, it's really nice that it's getting darker out, earlier, and I'm not having to deal with the light changes and stuff, so
Yeah, I mean, I
yeah.
remember my first 4th of July in North Dakota, and we didn't
Uh-huh.
start fireworks till about 10:45 at night.
Oh,
That, like,
wow.
that freaked me out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So, yeah. Yeah, or, like, I remember it was October 3rd when frost started hitting our cars, like a hard
wow.
frost, and I was like, what is this?
Right? You're, like, having to scrape it
So
off, right?
yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah, it is wild, and it's wild how it affects both your mental health and just your outlook on life, really.
absolutely, yeah, and how it affects your internal clock and everything and like, the health and also you have to, like sometimes you have to take supplements like vitamin D, you have to take
Oh,
vitamin
yeah.
D
Yep,
supplements in the
that was the
wintertime.
first time I had to take vitamin D.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the
I
thing,
got
like,
my little happy lamp. Didn't really
right?
make me happy, just made me
Yeah.
jittery, but that's okay.
Right, right. And sometimes, yeah, like I'm not much of a coffee person, but sometimes I'll have a good cup of coffee and that'll keep me, like my energy up sometimes too. But
Yeah.
I'm a tea drinker. I'm drinking Genmite cha, which is the rice cracker tea for, my drink
Ooh.
of choice here, which is good. And oh yeah, can you show them your
Oh,
Twilight Zone
yes.
mug?
So, this is my Twilight Zone mug. I have some
Love that.
stickers on here. So some of these stickers I bought. So some of these, most of these stickers I bought from Etsy, but some of these stickers are from Jeff Serling, a la Jeff
Oh,
Serling. Rod Serling's nephew at Serling Fest was selling ones that he made.
oh, that's
And
amazing.
yes. So this is the Twilight Zone mug. My only complaint about the mug is that it does not fit in my car holder in the cup holder in my car.
Oh man.
So like I have to drink this at home or
Yeah.
otherwise I'm just like spilling everywhere or I have to carry it with me all the time, which is a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So, but
It's funny yeah,
yes,
okay,
love my
sorry.
Twilight Zone mug. Thank you very much.
It's amazing, yeah. It looks like I like the sparklies, like, 'cause it gives that vibe of the space and the introduction of the Twilight Zone, with it's, like, all
Yes,
set in
that
time
was
and
what
space.
I was going for. I like
Yeah,
when I bought it on Etsy, it was just the sparklies, and then
yeah.
I was like, "I have a vision, so thank you
It's
for noticing."
I love it, yeah, it's very much appreciated. I think it's what you did with that mug and everything, 'cause it's a vibe, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say that, like, I was gonna pull some, like, tarot cards on, because this is what I do, like, towards, like, the end of the podcast, and it's like, do you wanna keep going with the podcast? Like,
Yeah, we can go for a few more minutes, so let's
yeah,
let's see what the tarot cards have for us in store.
awesome. So I was gonna ask, like, what questions so one of the things I ask my guests, I guess what questions would you have, like, for example, for, like, the after hours and or the living doll, like, what
Yeah.
questions would you want answered through, you know, whatever question of your choice, and then I pull some cards on it, like, about any of the characters and stuff or the story.
I guess I wanna know or am I asking a question for both characters, like, main characters, or can it be specific to one?
It's whatever you wanna do, like, whatever you
I
wanna
wanna
ask.
know if both Talking Tina and Marsha
Mhm.
are at peace wherever they are in the Twilight Zone.
Alright. Should we do Tina first and then Marsha second?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so this is talking Tina. Is she at peace? See. Oh, so two of these popped out. So actually three of them. Oh, interesting. Okay, so the magician card right here. This is basically the card of the person, taking charge, doing whatever they want. And this deck is like really good. I highly recommend if you guys like the tarot. This is called the inversion tarot deck right here, and it's got kind of the 1700s like wood carving stuff on. But anyways, the magician here, he's like kind of cooking up something, and also, it's kind of this being the magician. I feel like I said, I think that she's somewhere in the universe cooking something up or, just
Hmm.
figuring out, like, what her next move is gonna be, but also working her magic is the vibe I get from this. And,
Nice.
yeah, and then you got the Wheel of Fortune next to that, so it's like what you
Ooh.
were saying about going to the next family. This is kinda what this indicates, like, moving on to the next person or the next, victim or whatever, you
Yeah.
wanna call it, and, Two of Swords is, this usually symbolizes, like, indecision. It's you know, in the wider right tarot deck, it's the person who has, like, the 2 swords, with a blindfold, so,
Right,
um
yep.
yeah, so there's a sense of, okay, she might not know exactly where she's gonna go or where she's gonna choose to go, but she's kind of in that, in that holding place, and I was gonna choose 2 more cards on that, so yeah, and so Temperance, so she's kinda just, like, balancing and biding her time and just kinda mixing things up a little bit. So there's that's kind of where she's, moving forward in, and then the
Mhm.
yeah, and then the conclusion here, let's see, and then the Page of Pentacles. So I feel like this is symbolic of her, meeting the next child that she needs to protect or meeting the next, just kind of
Interesting.
yeah, yeah, kind of in the beginning stages of, investing herself into, like, a different family or, like, a different situation. It doesn't even have to be with a child, but I just feel like, this being the main card here, the Magician card, I think that she definitely, is, like she's it's like she's at peace, I feel, like, I feel like she's more in an observing space, just, like,
Mm,
observing things and figuring out, "Okay, where do I wanna go to next, and what decision am I gonna make, and who needs my help or who needs, to be, like,
mhm.
revenged and stuff." Does that resonate?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Speaking on behalf of Talking Tina, sure.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's intuitively what I feel, is a possibility, like a strong
Yeah.
possibility, because everything being made of energy, including, like, the direction of, like, where people like, where creators and writers and stuff this is the thing about, reading fictional characters, which is part of what I do on this podcast and, also on my Substack on the Vibrant Cat Eye. One of the things that I like to do and I want to share with the world is, learning to go deeper into the stories that, we write, but also that we consume as well. And because you've got the creators, you've got the writers that actually put their own intention into it, but then there's also the fullness of the collective unconsciousness. I feel like there's a spiritual purpose for, like, maybe the universe or our spirit guides or angels or whatever exists out in the universe wants to, show itself, or express itself through these stories and we wonder where that comes from. And so in a way I'm kind of picking up on the energy of what feels like the strongest pull energetically and everything. So that's where I'm coming from as an intuitive, like, when I'm reading these characters and everything, and also wanting to help other writers and creators, dig deep into, what, just go into that deeper space of, like, why are you drawn to this, but also when you're writing and you're creating, like, what is it that speaks to you about this character, the story that's forming, like, what
Right,
is it that you want to say and everything. So
right.
as far as yeah, yeah. So that's the background on that, and, as far as Marcia goes, let's see, is Marcia at peace? Oh, interesting. It's funny that that popped out again, 2 of Swords.
Ooh.
So, I feel
Maybe she
like
is, maybe she isn't.
yeah, I feel like she's close I have a feeling that, like, there's certain things that she needs to come to realize about herself and stuff, and I think there is definitely some confusion with her because she doesn't I feel like she what do you call it? Like, I don't like, she's kind of feeling confused about whether she like, I think she definitely wants to go back out and explore the world, but I think she's kinda confused about what she wants to do in that regard, like, making a decision, but also, I feel like, part of her journey oop, I should probably cover that because it's supposed to go on YouTube. Yeah, this is the world card, so this is like a completion of a journey, so I think there's one part of her journey that's completed, but then there's also, I think she's still trying to decide what she wants to
Ooh.
do, what her next step wants to be. And so there's the moon right there. So in a way, this is the hidden influences card here. So this is like, her trying to get out of that space of confusion, but also trying to, like, look deeper into herself. There's like that kind of introspection. And the Page of Cups, like, again, that the kind of like child emotional child card. So, um, the woman, the woman in the hat, that was telling her that she's acting like a child, like, that's still kind of the space she's in, like that she kind of comes at life with right now. Just this is kind of like the card that's moving her forward and everything. Still kind of has that child wonderment and everything, but at the same time, I think there's a sense of like, she needs to really like I don't want to say grow up, but there's like needs to see things outside of herself too and see
Mhm.
how her actions have impacted everybody. So, but yeah, there's this is the conclusion card for her. So, there's still that drive, the Queen of Wands. She has that need to explore. So like one part of her journey seems to be, done, maybe, going into the human world and everything, but I think she needs to like there's a part of her that needs to move on to like a different dimension or something, like
Yeah.
not just as a mannequin, but just, as an entity, that is that mannequin. She wants to explore. I think she has this need to expand her consciousness in a way, and she doesn't know how to do that, in a very like in a mature, I guess, in a mature way or in a way
Yeah.
that's it's like she kind of just she approaches the world, she approaches her existence with a sense of the wonderment of, of a child, but also is pretending to be, an adult too, but also internally there's so much confusion. So
Yeah.
she's needing to sort that out and then take action from a different place, from a place of, maturity and not necessarily from confusion and acting on her emotions. And I think that's what got her in trouble in the first place with forgetting who she was. I think she got knocked off kilter in a way because of her, her own actions and everything. So yeah, what do you think of that?
It all sounds good to me. All makes sense.
Yeah. I think so too. Yeah. 'Cause yeah, that's the vibe, and yeah, I'm hoping that she finds, if they were to do, like, a different story of that, maybe she would find out a bit more about herself, like,
Mhm.
maybe somebody, whether she's a mannequin or not, maybe she can, you know, move on to a different plane of existence and
Yeah.
thrive in that other plane of existence in the Twilight
Yeah.
Zone, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah, so, alright. I guess, it's like we've been doing this for a hour and a half. Do you have anything else you would like to like, I guess, talk about or leave with or,
Well, I wanna thank all of our friends who, decided to hang out with us.
yeah,
So it was great seeing you all here,
yeah.
and, I guess, you know, Elena, I just wanna thank you for being a friend.
Oh, thank you. I want to thank you for being a friend as well. Right? There's another Golden Girls reference right there. Yeah, and thank you so much for, for coming on this podcast as well and talking about these amazing like consciousness expanding film or TV, this TV series and these episodes and everything. It's been fun, and I wanted to thank Chitra and Sherry and Namila, Missy, and Johnson for joining us live here in the for watching this live. You guys are amazing, and yeah, if you want to subscribe to Jamie and on her podcast, what are the socials that you'd like to share here?
Yeah, so you can come find me here on Substack. It's a good life review. And yeah, check it out. If you have questions about the Twilight Zone or just any kind of feelings about the Twilight Zone, Rod Serling, early sci-fi, let me know.
Yeah, yeah. If you have any questions for her, she's the person you go to about that stuff. I highly recommend, her Substack. I've been, following her Substack the past couple of months, and it's amazing. And she's a
Thank you.
treasure trove of knowledge about the Twilight Zone and yeah, and Rod Serling and yeah, and if you wanna follow me on Substack or Threads, I'm under the Vibrant Cat Eye, or on Instagram and everything. And then you can find this podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, um, and then those are the only three I think I plugged in for now and everything. But I'm gonna
It's
be
enough.
yeah, yeah. But I'm gonna be reposting this podcast on my Substack and just in sharing it and everything. So I hope you guys can tune in, and yeah, so yeah, we'll have to do this, again, and talk about other episodes and everything, and maybe talk about Night Gallery, which is another.
Yeah.
I know that you're like, your knowledge is like vast with the Twilight Zone, but also, when we talk about Rod Serling next, possibly we should talk about also the Night Gallery and everything.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally. Let's do it.
yeah. All right. All right. Well, Jamie, you have a wonderful afternoon, and I'll send you a message on Substack here in a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But thank you all for tuning in, and
Thank you for having me. This was
yeah,
so fun.
yeah. Thank you, Jamie, for coming, and yeah, I'll talk to you. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.